So what's going on guys, Kids here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today I will show you how can you become overpowered at the very start in Sons of the Forest. So some of these tips may be very obvious and some of them may not. I made this video based on the things that I would have appreciated knowing when I first started playing this new survival game. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So then let's move over to the first step on how can you become extremely overgeared at the very start. And it is by not wasting your time building a base. But instead what we want to do is pick up every single piece of item from the crash site and then go exploring. I would recommend to mark down the crash site or at least don't forget about it, because it is very good to once in a while come back to your starting position to find new items. So after we have loaded everything, we straight away want to go exploring. And our goal is to first of all craft a spear or some sort of weapon. And if you got lucky from your spawn, then you might right away have cloth and other tools to create a weapon. But if you don't, then just gather a few sticks and make at least a spear. And then when that is done, then now you have 2 missions to kill every single animal that you can see, and then the other mission is to go exploring and trying to find a cave or a cannibal camp. My main ideology with getting OP very fast is to not waste any of your time building or thinking about the future, but instead you want to go explore, then in your way hunt animals, so then we don't run out of food and we can use their hide to craft useful items. And then lastly and most importantly, because we want to be OP very fast, so obviously the fastest way to get better items is by looting caves and bandit camps. So that is exactly what we will be doing. And as we are not wasting any of our time on building a base, we will be constantly moving and exploring the map. So even if we annoy the enemies, then they won't be able to destroy our base because we won't build one in the first place. So then as we're basically naked, so we wanna craft a spear and a bow. Going into caves and camps won't be that easy, because the caves will be dark ravines, while most camps will be guarded with cannibals. So then here are few tips. If you're going into caves very early on, then I recommend to be very careful, and most likely you won't have a light source, so they're going to be very dark. And that's why you need to see where you're going. And if you can, then when you go into caves, then turn your brightness on as high as possible to see as much as you can. And remember to of course loot every single item that you can find. And most importantly, don't forget that even if you run into enemies, you as the player is way smarter than any of them. And even if they're stronger than you, then you can still kill them. So if you have an explosive or a torch, then you can throw it at them and then set them on fire. Or if you crafted a bow or a spear, then you don't have to exactly straight away attack them, but instead you can just shoot enemies from a distance. And especially if you find yourself in a ravine that has multiple layers, then don't jump right away, but instead shoot enemies from a distance and then only afterwards go down to their level and loot their bodies. And then here's another quick tip. If you kill enemies by burning them or close to the water, then a lot of times if they were carrying an armor, then you won't be able to pick it up from them. So in case you want the enemy's armor, then perhaps don't explode them and don't set them on fire. And then on the other hand, if you come across a cannibal camp or a village, then don't forget that again high ground is your friend. So most enemies just have hands as their weapon. So if you can, get on top of the building or just any type of higher structure and then shoot enemies down. And this will give you a safe place where you can shoot the enemies from, and they won't be able to do anything about it. And then of course, if you beat all the enemies, then loot every single thing that you can find. And then lastly, if you ever run into trouble or a bad position, then don't forget that most enemies can't swim. So if you can, jump down in the water, or just use the open world aspect to run away from enemies, and that's about it. So then let's assume that our plan has worked. We killed a bunch of animals and have plenty enough food and resources, and we even raided a camp or cave. So by now we should have a bunch of good items. So now the thing we want to do is consolidate everything we found and make useful items out of them. So then first of all, if you haven't done this already, then we just want to find few cannibals. And after killing them, we want to make a fire and burn their bodies down. So then afterwards we can collect bones and make armor out of them. And depending on what specific items you got from the camps and caves, we want to upgrade or build better weapon. So if from a campsite you found a sword or a hatchet, then build a bow, and vice versa. I usually recommend for best starting weapons to use a bow and a spear, but depending on what you found, you can use better weapons as well. So then now we have crafted our armor and weapons, and most likely by this time we are running out of food and water. So now let's make sure that our character stats are back to 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and drink a soda, but you have to be careful because we have only few of them. So just be careful on how much you are drinking and eating, so then we suddenly don't run out of food. So let's just go ahead and eat your snack real quick. Now when that is done, you want to build a drying rack. So now what we want to do is put down our meat onto this drying rack, and what this will do is that it will now dry it up. The resources that we got from the animals will become meat that you can carry in your inventory. If you only cook your food on a fire, then normally all you can do is just eat it straight away, and you cannot pick it up from the fire afterwards. So drying your food is great for longer journeys. Now that we have hunted a lot of animals, we really want to make sure that we have got enough food to survive. So if you spawn in an area where you don't have deer, you actually don't have to focus just on one animal type. You could also go for lizards, rabbits, and even a fish. So if you're close to the water, then just make a spear with 2 sticks and go fishing in a small pond. So just keep your options open, take a look at your surroundings and see what food you can get. And because I found a bunker, I was able to make a flask. So once you equip this, you can go ahead and fill it up with the water. And if you don't collect pure water, then it can poison you. So I just want to make it super clear that the polluted water is your last reserve. And the last reserve is that when you're taking damage from thirst. So you want to be drinking the soda first, then all the other beverages, and only then the polluted water. But of course, if you can, then avoid drinking the polluted water. But if you're still struggling to find a good and decent clean water source, then the easiest way to get fresh water in the Sons of the Forest is to create a water collector. The player will need to collect 4 sticks and a turtle shell to create one, but it's worth the effort in the long run. Turtle shells can be obtained by scouting a beach, then finding a turtle and then killing it, and then removing its hard exterior. The best thing about the water collector is that after you build it, you don't need to do anything to make sure it works. The empty turtle shell will automatically fill up with clean water whenever it rains. Or then the second method is to find a cooking pot, then fill it up with the polluted water, and then place down the cooking pot onto the fire. And after some time, this will purify your water and you will be able to drink it. And of course, don't forget that if you want to go on long journeys, then make a water skin, and this basically will be your bottle, in which you can hold water for long periods of time. So then now that you've got food, you don't need to worry about the snacks, just stick to this food right here. Let's make a fire real quick as well. So I've just placed some generic meat on the fire so we can eat straight away. The way it will work that whenever we wanna eat, we will cook our food, but then the rest of the food we wanna keep dry. So then we will be able to pick it up and put it in our inventory. So then by this point, we have got very OP loot from the caves and camps, and we have our character stats to the max by making food and drinking water. So now we will have to worry about the cannibals. If you do come across cannibals at any point during your first few days, they will be very weak, so we can just easily outrun them. But after this point in our journey, I would recommend to build a small tree house or hut, where we can place a sleeping bag and store some of our loot. But all of this is for another video, so check it out if you're interested in how to build or what to do after you found OP items at the very start. And then lastly, here's a bonus tip about building your base. A lot of players don't know this, but once you go into the cave, perhaps you put some lights down and you've killed all the cannibals. Well, then now that cave is completely secure. The cannibals don't respawn, and the other enemies can't come into the caves as well. So after clearing a cave, it becomes one of the safest places in the game. So my point is that you could perhaps build a bed in here and just make this into a nice cozy little safe spot. You don't have to build a big base, you can just go ahead and put some essential stuff. So if the enemies ever overwhelm you, then you can go into one of these caves and make it your permanent base, and that's about it. So with that said, I really do appreciate everyone for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, feedback or other good Sons of the Forest beginner guides that you would like to see in the next video, then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and you won't miss any more amazing content from me. With all this said, you have an amazing day and I will see you in my next video, so take it easy, peace.